Hello friends, hope all of you are doing well. Welcome to a new session on literary criticism and theory, basically our MEG 5 paper, and in this particular session we are continuing our journey on the block 7, that is deconstruction. And in today's session we are going to do a very beautiful work by Ronald Barthes, that is the death of the author. So for those of you who have not watched my previous video, I highly recommend that do watch that video in order to understand properly this particular session. And because in this previous session that I have taken in one of his essay by Ronald Barthes, that is from work to text, I have explained some key points and key takeaways which will help you to understand this particular session in an easy manner. Also, do not forget to check out the description for important links of different playlists and some beautiful videos narrated in my voice. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. Now, for those of you who have watched the previous video, that is Ronald Barthes' essay from work to text, they already are aware what is the difference between work and text. Now the similar concept is being incorporated in this particular essay, that is the death of the author by Ronald Barthes. The death of the author is an influential essay written by French literary theorist Ronald Barthes. Now, I have already explained a little bit about the bio of Ronald Barthes in the previous session, so I will not explain it here again. Those of you who want to know about Ronald Barthes, do watch the previous video. And this particular work of Ronald Barthes, that is the death of the author, it was published in the year 1967. And what it does in this particular work, it challenges the traditional notions of authorship and authority of the author over the interpretation of a literary text. Now, if I have to just briefly summarize what is the important takeaway in this particular essay, the death of the author, basically what Ronald Barthes is trying to explain here is that he wants to eliminate the possibility of dictatorship of the author. Okay, in a particular text, when we go through a particular piece of literature, if our mind is dictated by the viewpoint of the author, then it is actually not a text, and this particular influence of the authors over the mind of the readers should not be there, according to Ronald Barthes, and that is precisely written in this particular essay, that is the death of the authors. Now, for your help, I have divided the entire essay in some key points which will help you to understand this particular essay better. And also, for those of you who asked me that how long you have to write for a 20 marks question, I recommend that you have to stretch your answer from 350 to 500 words, and these points will help you to stretch your answers in a better way. Now the first point in this regard is the death of the author. So this point I have kept so that it represents the significance of the title of the particular essay. Now Barthes argues that once a text is written and published, the author's intentions and identity should no longer be considered relevant to its interpretations. The author's personal experiences, beliefs, and intentions should not dictate the meaning of the text. Instead, the focus should be on the reader and their subjective interpretation. Now, it's quite obvious that this particular point I have kept in order to explain you people the significance of the title, that is the death of the author. Now, here what Barthes is trying to imply is that whenever we go through a piece of literature, in the background of our mind, we have the author's intention and identity, all right? And it should not dictate our interpretation or our intellect in order to properly visualize the particular text. Alright, so there should be no influence of the author over the minds of the readers. So that's why the name has been kept of this essay as the death of the author. That means after the piece of work has been written by the author, he has no influence over the readers. Now, coming to the next point, that is text as a multidimensional space. Barthes suggests that a text should be viewed as a multidimensional space with various layers of meaning. It is not limited to the intentions of the author, but encompasses a wide range of cultural, historical, and social contexts. The text is open to interpretation and can generate multiple meanings based on individual readings. Now, in order to make you understand this particular point, that how text can be considered as a multidimensional space, I want to take to a particular section of our previous session, that is where I explained you the meaning of text with the help of a movie. The movie by Christopher Nolan, that is Inception. Now, those of you who have watched my previous video, or in case if you have watched the movie in itself, you know that how the movie has been kept multi-layered, okay? And it is open for interpretation for different type of viewers. Now, I'm not saying that in this particular work, the death of the author, the author himself is talking about movies, but that is a good example in order to understand how a text can be also kept as a multidimensional space, because we have to understand the fact that a movie is nothing but it is based on a script written by some script writer. So basically it's a work, it's a text, it's a piece of literature which is incorporated in the big screen. So that is how a text has to be written, so that it is open for interpretations by readers based on different cultural backgrounds, societal contexts and others. Now the third point in this regard is reader as the source of meaning. Barthes emphasizes the role of the reader in the process of interpretation. The reader brings their own background, experiences and cultural context to the text, which influences their understanding and meaning making. The reader actively engages with the text, making it a collaborative process rather than passive reception of author's message. Now this is a very, very important point where we see the collaboration of the reader and the writer. Alright, so this particular point definitely you mention in your answers, that is reader as a source of meaning. It is when the author's job is finished after writing the piece of literature, and then the reader's job begins. Okay, when the reader goes through the piece of text, he interprets it according to his cultural background, his experiences and cultural context. And in this way what he does is that he collaborates along with the writer to create that particular literature multidimensional, okay, open-ended. As you remember that in the previous session I have also mentioned that a text should be open-ended. That means it should be open to different types of readers. Fine. The next point is displacing authorial authority. Now Barthes challenges the notion of the author as the ultimate authority on the meaning of a text. He argues that attributing an absolute meaning to the author's intention limits the text's potential for different interpretation and stifles creativity. By displacing authorial authority, the text becomes a dynamic space where readers are free to create their own meanings. Now this is also a very vital point when it comes to this particular essay, that is that of the author. That means the authority of the author should be suspended while after writing the text. After the text or a piece of literature is written, the authority of the writer or the author to dictate the mind of the readers by his viewpoint should be suspended in order to create multiple meanings of that piece of text. If this is not done, then it is subjected to a very singular meaning, which is not good for any piece of literature. So that's why this particular point, displacing authority, it should be implemented in every piece of literature, and is very vital for the progress of literature as well as for the creativity of the readers. Okay, it intrigues the creativity of the readers with the suspension of the authority. Now the next point is the birth of the readers. Barthes suggests that with the death of the author comes the birth of the reader. Readers have the power to engage with the text, interpret it, and create their own meanings. The reader becomes an active participant in the process of meaning making, and their interpretation are just as valid as the author's intentions. Now it is a very, very vital point. Why I'm saying this? Because the death of the author, when the death of the author happens in a subjective manner, I'm talking about like the author actually does not die over here. We are talking in the literary sense. Now when that happens, what happens is that we see the birth of the reader. And how that happens? Because the reader now is open up to a atmosphere or an environment where he can contribute something to that particular piece of literature based on his historical background, cultural background, social context, and much more. In this particular process of meaning making, the interpretations are as valid, the interpretations of the readers is as valid as the author's intentions. Okay, and the final point is the end of interpretation. Barthes concludes by stating that once the author is removed as the sole authority on interpretation, the text is set free from fixed meanings. Interpretation becomes an ongoing infinite process with no definitive or correct interpretation. The death of the author allows for the text liberation and the endless possibilities of meaning. Now when I say the final point is the end of interpretation, you have to understand that we are talking about any singular meaning imposed by the author on the minds of the readers. Now when that happens, when the death of the author happens in a literary sense, this particular process where a singular meaning is being conveyed by the author is also suspended, and this particular event leads to the creativity of the readers, the contribution of the readers, and it becomes an open process. Okay, a multi-dimensional layers of the particular text is being explored by the readers in order to attain more knowledge and more aesthetic pleasure. So this is the video, guys. I believe that this particular essay, that is that of the author by Ronald Barthes, is totally clear to you. I have tried to take away some key points from this particular essay, that is basically 6 key points. Your job is to now stretch this particular 6 points in order to make a proper 20 marks answer in order to practice for your upcoming term in examination. In case if you have any other doubt, do feel free to comment in the comment section, and I would highly recommend that go ahead and watch the previous session as well. That was an essay from work to text where I have discussed this particular concept in a very detailed manner. You will also have some important pointers from there. And yes, do not forget to check out the description where I have mentioned the links of some important playlists of our other papers as well, and do not forget to check out the links of the videos which I have narrated. That will mean a lot to me, and do feel free to comment in those videos as well. Till we meet next time, God bless you and thank you all.